Good evening and welcome back. Tonight I'd like to discuss forging a magical connection between your conscious self, your subconscious self, and your higher self. To really work true magic, a practitioner must form a connection between the three aspects of self: the conscious self, the subconscious self, and the higher self. Forging this magical connection and discovering the magic within takes patience and discipline. For the most part, the subconscious self is ignored by the conscious self. There are many different reasons for this. Many people are uncomfortable with the idea of this more sensual or emotional self. Some feel that the subconscious self is simply too childish to be bothered with at all. Either attitude can interfere with the process of forging a connection between the subconscious and conscious minds. Reconnecting with the subconscious self is an incredibly simple process, really. It's really only a matter of needing to be open to what the subconscious has to say. Listen to it, talk to it, and pay attention to what it has to offer. Remember that the subconscious is very like a small child or even an animal. After being neglected for so long, it will not trust easily. The subconscious must be courted, gentled, and taught to trust. This takes time and patience. A good method for building a relationship with the subconscious self is to use meditation. While in a meditative state, ask the subconscious self to reveal itself in the form of an animal. It may still be shy, and it may not appear at all, and if it does, it may not be in its true animal form. If this animal runs or hides, then it is not yet ready to reveal itself. With patience, the subconscious self will reveal its true animal form, and when it does, invaluable insights can be gained into its personality. We will discuss in a future video different types of meditation that you can use in order to connect to your subconscious self. There are other things that can be done to strengthen the bond with the subconscious self. This element of the mind is usually sensual, playful, and childlike, and thus it will typically respond when these aspects of the self are explored and indulged. In time, the sensuality, spontaneity, and energy of the subconscious self can be added to the maturity, thoughtfulness, and intelligence of the conscious self. The subconscious self has spent a great amount of time storing up old memories and emotions. Not all of these are positive. The negative memories and emotions are a block to any sort of connection to the higher self. Overcoming this is not easy. The negative emotions and memories must be identified and truly released. This can be done through meditation, hypnosis, or even divination. You can possibly use tools such as the tarot. Some people also find that simply discussing these things with a trusted friend helps release them. Still others decide that professional therapy may be of assistance. Everyone must find their own way of accomplishing this particular task. The idea here is to find the internal balance that might have been lost. This means not just identifying the negative emotions that are blocking access to the higher self, but mending them. This is probably the most difficult part of connecting the subconscious self to the higher self. On a more mundane level, this might mean making amends for some harm you have done others, or offering forgiveness to those who have caused harm to you. In a more magical sense, this process might involve spiritual cleansing. Ritual baths, self-blessings, aura cleansings, and smudging are just some ideas on how this might be accomplished. Over time and with patience, the negative emotions and memories can be cleared. Once this has happened, there can be a free exchange of energy between the subconscious self and the higher self. Once the higher self and the subconscious self are ready and able to communicate effectively, there is only one last path of communication left that must be established: the conscious self to the higher self. If this pathway can be forged, the higher self will shower the conscious self with wisdom, love, and power. The one real block in establishing this particular communication is the conscious self. If it and you cannot be made to accept that all the gifts that flow from the higher self are both well-deserved and highly possible, then that path will remain blocked. It can be opened by a sense of faith and belief that the higher self exists and that anything is possible. But just as important is a high regard for oneself, not ego, not really, but a healthy respect for both yourself and your higher self. The higher self is much wiser than the conscious mind. When it comes to the working of magic, it will grant that which is asked for in its own way. Sometimes this will be subtle and almost unnoticeable. To fully explore the intricacies of magic, you must be open to the messages that the higher self will reveal. This requires a level of awareness that can only be developed over time, and only by those who are determined to do so. Now we're coming up on a 7-minute video, so I'm not going to discuss this particular topic anymore today. I will come back to this in the future, and we will talk about meditations to forge the connections that I talked about today. However, next week I'm going to address some ethics that people have been asking about, because I did a few videos on ethics earlier, but I didn't get in depth. So next week I'm going to talk a little bit about ethics from a Wiccan perspective, specifically Wicca. If you follow a different magical path, the ethics of your specific magical path will likely be different. But for now, blessed be.